It's Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach, and it's Real Talk Monday. I want to go to the book of Matthew. This is something I talk about a lot when talking about eyes on Christ, eyes on Jesus. But again, I want to go to Matthew chapter 14, talking about Jesus walks on the water when he calls Peter out to him. And at first the disciples were afraid because they saw Jesus out on the water as Jesus was coming. And so let's go back over there. It says, verse 22, immediately Jesus made the disciples get in the boat and go ahead of him to the other side. After he dismissed them, he went up on the mountainside. But later that night, he was there alone. Anyway, looking back, let's go to verse 25. It says, shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. So the disciples were in the boat. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it's I, don't be afraid. Well, guess who was in that boat? Peter was in that boat. And Peter was very vocal as a leader, as one of the disciples. And so in that position, everybody was watching him. And so what did Jesus say? He said this. Peter challenged him. He said, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out to you on the water. Sounds crazy, right? Come, he said. Peter got down out of the water. He walked on the water and he came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. He began to sink. Cried out, Lord, save me. Don't miss this. Peter was leading by example. Everybody was watching him. And they weren't just watching to see if he would succeed. They were watching to see if he'd be obedient, if he would face his fears. And the reason this comes up because looking at Mother's Day that just passed, and then Father's Day is coming up. Do you see yourself as a leader? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? But understand, it's kind of hard to be an introvert as a parent. If you're a mom or a dad, man, your kids are watching everything you do. And I do not care how old that is. They're watching everything that you do from the standpoint of when you talk to them about being afraid. When you talk about accepting a challenge, when you talk about not giving up, when you talk about your attitude, when you talk about how you treat women, how you treat men, you're in a leadership position. And you've got to lead by example. So this has nothing to do with being an extrovert or an introvert. We're talking about the leadership position that you took on when you became a mama or a daddy. Okay, you're also modeling again when your son or daughter look at your attitude. All right, do you have a bad attitude or do you have a positive attitude? And I'm talking about this. I'm talking about, especially as a Christ follower, that you talk about, I'm a Christ follower, but you have a bad attitude and you're afraid to do anything. What message does that send to anybody that's watching you when they're trying to see what's different about you? Again, maybe you don't proclaim yourself as a leader, but if you're a mom and a dad, you're in a leadership role. That's what I had to look at with my sons when I talked about, you need to go to college, you need to get your degree. Because when they say, Dad, why didn't you get your degree? It was a mistake I made. It wasn't important. But I look at today the opportunity to get my degree. And who would I be as a leader to not pursue that goal? That is why I'm a college freshman and I'm 48 years old. What excuse are you making that's holding you back from taking that step of faith and being a great leader for your son or daughter to see? It's Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach. It's been Real Talk Monday. Have a great day. Woo.